are there for a reason. They're looking to hire people. They're looking to buy from people. They're looking to get educated. They're not there because they're bored. It's like, oh, let me just scroll on LinkedIn. Like, no one's doing that.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge,
and settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips.
Hello, Deanne. We are so excited to have you on the Duo On Air podcast. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we met, I feel like it was 6-ish months ago, probably. And you came into our group, our membership group for web designers, copywriters, SEO service providers. And we just wanted to bring in something new and different. And LinkedIn is a place that I feel like so many people either overlook it, know they need to be there, but then just don't make the move, aka that's me. So there's just so many things I feel like we can learn in this space. So I'm just so excited to talk with you and have you share some of your wisdom with our listeners.
Yes, I'm very excited. And like you mentioned, LinkedIn, it's not a new platform, but it's a very untapped platform.
Yeah, I believe it for real. So how about you start by just telling us how you got here? Like, did you know instantly or like, I'm going to live in LinkedIn and this is going to be my thing?
No, so I did not know instantly that LinkedIn was going to be a major platform for me. I originally started on Instagram, as a lot of entrepreneurs originally start. And at one point, I just kind of got frustrated. I said, okay, well, I'm doing all the things, I'm posting the reels, and I'm just not seeing traction. And I just wasn't growing my business in a professional way as I really wanted it to. And I felt that it was really saturated, and I just felt very overwhelmed and overall just like frustrated because I'm like, I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing everything, but I'm not really seeing results. And I said, there has to be a different way to do this. So I'm thinking of other platforms. So I started thinking, okay, TikTok. And I'm thinking, well, like, is my audience really on TikTok? Or is it going to be an Instagram kind of part two? And then I'm thinking Facebook, and I'm thinking, okay, well, and then I'm thinking LinkedIn. And I said, okay, well, this is interesting because LinkedIn is very corporate-y. That's, everyone's, kind of like how they feel about LinkedIn. And I said, but if I'm trying to reach professionals and I'm trying to help people like in a professional way, like this actually may be like what I'm looking for. So I said, okay, well, let me go on LinkedIn because I haven't done anything since college. So I'm like, let me even see if I can log in and let me just like see what happens. So started to kind of clean up, started to kind of like learn more about the platform. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to post content. And one thing that I learned, I think just from being on social media was that a lot of times, like it's a social media platform. You're trying to stand out. So I said, I'm not going to be posting these kind of like boring corporate-y photos just because like that's not me. Like if I'm going to be on this platform, I'm going to be the same person that I would be showing up on Instagram, on TikTok. Like it's going to be the same thing. So I said, okay, well, I have my brand photo shoot photos, like they're very lifestyle photos, like that's it. Like this is what it is. This is what I have. Like I'm not reinventing the wheel here. So I think that was like a big thing. And like, it's funny because a lot of people will say like, oh, I can't do this on here. I can't do this on LinkedIn. And I said, for me, like that was like such like an easy like way to kind of like break through the noise is I'm like, no, like actually like you should, because everybody else is thinking they have to be like super corporate-y, like super like buttoned up. And I kind of went in and I said, okay, well, my brand photo shoots have a sundress, so I'm wearing a sundress. And that's it. Like, I'm not going to pretend to be something that I'm not.
Yeah.
So started growing a following, started growing my brand on LinkedIn, and just kind of like just getting more attention, even like local. And it was funny because that's when like things started happening for me. Like that's when I got like speaking engagements, podcasts, and like that was just like not something that I even had intended to happen. But I think like in my, especially my local community, there's a lot of more corporate people that skew a little bit older. And then once they saw me build my LinkedIn, they finally started taking me seriously. So it's funny that like that happened because I didn't think it would. And then within like 1 year, I basically grew my platform to like 25K followers. And then what it was like a real proud moment for me, I was featured on a billboard in Times Square as a LinkedIn top creator. And it was really cool. I got to go with my family, with my fiance. Like, we're an immigrant family. So like, you know, like you never think that someone from your family was going to be on a billboard like that. So it was like such like a cool, like proud moment.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I love that. And I think those are the kinds of things too that make like sometimes doing all the hard work that it takes to create content like worth it. Like, oh my gosh, people are
Right.
reading it, consuming it, like taking me seriously, like you said. And I love that you said that too, because you showed up as you. You didn't have
Yeah.
to change, like be a chameleon and do something else on LinkedIn. And I think that's what scares a lot of people is like, I have to be a different person if I'm going to show up on LinkedIn. And that's what holds us back.
100%. And I think for me, it was just, I think it also came natural from I just being frustrated of not seeing results. I started just really like frustrated because I'm like, there has to be a different way to promote my business. And then the other part was, I'm like, I think it was just kind of like, well, like, this is what I have. These are my brand photo shoots. Like, this is it. Like, I love fashion. I love being in my sundress. Like, why would I who cares, honestly? Like, if someone finds that offensive, like, I don't know. Like, I can't help you. Like, you're not my people. Like,
Right. Yeah. Then we won't work together and that's okay.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
I think that's true across any platform. Like show up as you, the right people
Yeah.
will resonate with you. And yeah, I love that. I think LinkedIn is definitely seen as this place that you have to be different. And I love the idea of just, no, you don't. You can just show up who you are. So
Yeah.
I would love to ask you because I know this is a feeling I have. And ever since we met like 6 months ago, it's literally continued to stay on my to-do list as like a
Mhm.
refresh my profile because I loved what you shared with us about like how to refresh your profile and all of that. So I would love to know, like for all those people whose LinkedIn is collecting dust and just sitting there, like how do you get started? What's the first thing that you should do? Because I'm sure the list feels overwhelming.
Definitely the profile. That's where I would start just because I always say if you start with content and like your content does well, and then people check out your profile, it's almost like a disservice if your profile isn't buttoned up. So I always say start with that and then follow it with content. So I would 100% start by like cleaning up that profile. So then when you do start to create content, then if someone clicks on your profile, like they know exactly who you are and what you do and no questions asked.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one of the things that surprised me was the difference between, and I'd love for you to explain this, the difference between your business LinkedIn page and then your profile and how you should think of those as like a business owner and a marketer and what to do there.
Yeah, so actually this is one of my top questions I get asked is, okay, well, should I be working on my business profile or my personal profile? As a business owner, having a business profile is important. But the main reason why I honestly have the business profile is more like I think of it as like a storefront, right? You kind of just have what you do on there, and then as when you're working on your personal profile, when you connect the business in your experience section, you get to have this page with your logo and just looks a little bit more buttoned up and a little bit more legit. So that's really the primary focus of your business. when you're thinking, okay, well, I want to grow my business on LinkedIn, you want to be doing that from your personal profile. People want to connect with people, especially on LinkedIn. That's such like a business corporate platform. Like that, it's even more crucial actually to really show up as a person, as an individual, and less as a business, because people want to do business with other people. And especially as entrepreneurs, it's a little bit easier for us to do that because our business is just an extension of us. So when you have a big corporation, for example, it's not so easy to do that because you kind of have to use that business profile just because you have thousands of people that work under you. But when you have your own business, it's really easy. And like, that's really where like business owners have the upper hand on LinkedIn, just because their business is just a part of them and they can show up as the founder, as the business owner, and really educate the people on what they do. And then the business is just kind of like, here's the business, but like you're really learning from me and like you're going to be working with me.
Yeah, I love that. I think that also takes a little bit of the pressure off. Like, we don't have to be posting twice. You don't have to think of personal content and business content. It's just all kind of focused on growing your personal brand with your business behind it.
Exactly. I'm all about like, okay, let's make this easier, which is one of the reasons why I ended up on LinkedIn. I said, okay, this is like, I'm spinning my wheels here and it's just not doing anything for me.
Yeah. So, what types of content right now would you say is performing well on LinkedIn? Like, what should we think of in terms of creating content? Because I'm sure it's not the same as what you create on TikTok,
No.
or at least I think.
Okay. Yeah. So I tried videos because I was also just trying to test the waters. Personally speaking, photos still perform the best for me over a video. I tried posting a video that I actually posted on the same video on Instagram. And I just wanted to kind of like test the waters because I know LinkedIn was trying to push video. And from my experience, the photos still perform the best. So that's just my take. I know a lot of carousel posts also do really well. I haven't done a lot of carousel posts straight out because that's more work. I like to be quite honest. It's a lot easier to use a photo that I already have in like my photo bank. So it's just so much easier to do that. And that's how I've grown my platform. And also, it's just really important that your content is educational, but also has some like to it. It needs to have some personality. It needs to have some kind of like it needs to have more than just being educational. And the content that I would say like does the worst is anything that's too salesy, especially again on that platform. I think the biggest like ick for me is that it could be so salesy. And I don't know if that works for anybody, but like if someone is just sending me a message and it's a straight up sales pitch and like especially it's like a fresh, like a new connection, like I'm probably not even gonna accept the connection. So because you're just trying to get a sale. Like you don't even know me. You don't even know if I need what you're selling. Like it's just like it's not making sense. So whenever you're just posting content, you're just being super promotional. Like people, especially on there, they have like their barriers up. Like they have a wall up. Like they don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think too, like, I would be curious. So if you know off the top of your head, I'd be curious, like, what types of content you've shared. I think, like, hearing some examples that have performed really well, like, hearing some examples of, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can apply that to my business. Cause I think how we think of a lot of things, like especially in the Instagram world, is like we are sharing some, you can share portfolio pieces and you can share like it's pretty heavy educational sometimes of like what you're sharing. And I don't know, I'm curious, like does that type of content, even if it's educational but not salesy, like does that still work on LinkedIn too?
Absolutely. So it definitely does work. I feel like educational content, like especially on LinkedIn, people are there for a reason. They're looking to hire people, they're looking to buy from people, they're looking to get educated. They're not there because they're bored. It's like, oh, let me just scroll on LinkedIn. Like no one's doing that. So educational content works really well. And it's another, like when you think about it, like that's a great way to sell your business because like if you're constantly providing value and educating people, like people are going to know what you do. So it's not going to be like, hey, like buy this, but it's going to be like, hey, let me educate you on X, Y, and Z. Like here's like 3 tips to, get this result. So that, and also just one thing that always worked for me, and it's to me like it's an easy way to create content. For example, like I listen to a lot of podcasts and I read a lot of books, right? So I love even having like a reflection and saying like, hey, I just finished reading this book, but here's some of like my key takeaways. Like here's what this book taught me about this. Or I was listening to this podcast episode and it pointed out this point and it made me think of that. So like that's like a great way of just also, like you like having it more of a reflection, but still like adding your own kind of spin to it, still add your own point of view, but really like focusing in is like, hey, like here's a resource for you. Like if you're into self-development books, like I just finished reading this one book and completely changed my mindset of how I view this, like habit tracking. I don't know. So so that's just like one thing that has always worked for me. And like I also like I enjoy reading other people's content that is about that. So I always say like create the content that you enjoy reading because a lot of times like you enjoy it for a reason. And if you like it, other people that are like you who would ultimately might be your potential clients, like they'll also resonate with that too.
Oh, absolutely. So, how would you suggest, like you said, like I like consuming that content too. So, if I go to my LinkedIn right now, it's going to be my corporate world. Like everyone I've followed, everyone I've engaged with, like it's all corporate world. And then, of course, my messages are sitting there with a million pitch, like cold DMs. That usually I'm just like, oh, goodbye. So, I'm curious, how do you evolve your audience? Like what should you do when you first go on to like, okay, we need to change. I'm assuming the LinkedIn algorithm is going to think that I'm still in this like corporate world unless I make some changes. So what would you suggest for like a lot of people in the small business world on how to like find people and content that resonate with who you are now?
So what I first would do, first of all, if you have any unread messages, just even if you ignore them, but just just go through them and just like read them, just especially because if you're creating content and you have like unread messages, unread things, like it's going to kind of hurt the algorithm a little bit. So just kind of like clear that out. Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely just clear that out, even if you don't respond, but at least like they're read, they're not totally ignored. When it comes to your corporate people, there's 2 things you can do. If you're the person that says like, I do not want to be connected with these people, I don't want them to know what I'm doing, then just remove them as a follower. Like it's totally okay. And just kind of like get rid of that. Like if you're someone that it's like, whatever, like I did work in corporate, it's these people, like I don't care. Like I'm still like, obviously like it's fine. Like if they know what I'm up to and what I'm doing, like I don't care, then just leave them. So that's kind of like with that. How to find new people. How I always suggest is kind of start with the big creators. And a lot of them have also like other followings from other social media. So like try to find those creators that like are kind of like the bigger creators that you're like, okay,
Like someone who was featured on Times Square, like you.
no. Like I'm thinking like when
But for real, everyone should go follow you.
Thank you. Yes, connect with me. But like the big creators, like I'm thinking like Alex Hormozy, like huge creator. Obviously, he's gonna have like a following on LinkedIn, and I didn't know that when I first started, but he was one of the first people that I said, oh, like okay, let me follow him. And then I started to see kind of like, okay, like who's engaging with that content? Because the people who are engaging with that content are probably kind of like my people. And then you start to find people that like you're connected with on, for example, like for me, that my main platform at the time was Instagram. So I knew a lot of entrepreneurs that I followed on Instagram, but I said, okay, let me connect with them on LinkedIn. And then like, again, start to see like who is engaging with their content, especially if they're like actually creating content. It's a lot easier to do that versus if they're on there, but not really have a presence. The good thing is like, especially like if someone is a big like on Instagram, for example, and they're not big on LinkedIn, and you want to connect with them, it's a good way to kind of break through the noise because sometimes they're like, okay, well, I got another follower. Like they probably don't even like realize. But on LinkedIn, like you might be able to kind of say like, hey, like I actually want to connect, collaborate, whatever. So that's where I would start. That's exactly what I did.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a good idea if you're pitching people for like podcasts, like you want them to appear in your podcast or you want to do
Right.
any kind of collaboration. It's a really good spot to reach out first. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I think those are things that feel so overwhelming because you feel like you have to change the entire algorithm, right? But I'm
Yeah.
sure it's something, and I'm sure you did this as well, is like you didn't sit down for 8 hours one day and just comb your LinkedIn. I'm sure it was like little by little.
Yeah, it was definitely little by little. And then that's the other thing. It's going to keep evolving. Just like any other social media platform. Like even now for me, like I'm actually going through like a rebrand. So like I know like my LinkedIn banner is gonna have to change. Like I know things are gonna have to change, but like that's part of just being like an entrepreneur. Like you start it and then like you know that like in 6 months in a year, you're kind of like, well, I'm not really doing this anymore. Or like, like I really want to evolve into like this next version of me. So like like you have to kind of update everything. So that's pretty much an ongoing process.
Yeah, for sure. So I remember hearing like a few years ago that sharing content off platform wasn't like a good idea. Like LinkedIn, so like sharing a blog post, for example. Is that still true? Because I remember hearing that maybe LinkedIn had their own, like you write on their platform so you never leave. And maybe that's like outdated now, but I feel like that's something that's still like stuck in my brain, especially as an SEO expert, of like you shouldn't share off platform. You should keep people there.
So that's a little bit outdated. It is obviously with any social media platform, they want original content, like same thing, same concept as like an Instagram. They want original content and all of that. What they used to do, and I think LinkedIn caught on to that, is like, let's say I wanted to drive people to my sales page, right? A lot of creators would write if they're posting about like, hey, I'm having a free webinar on April 25th. Okay. Here's the link to sign up. Instead of putting the link in the post, they would put it as the first comment, and that would bypass that. LinkedIn, I think, caught on to that and now basically says like, well, they're doing it anyway. So we're not gonna like penalize them
Hmm.
for putting it in the actual post. So they're actually just being a little bit more like they're being more lenient. And I always say like now if you have to have a link that drives to another platform, like a sales page, like a free webinar, whatever, like it's okay to have it as part of the post. It's actually better to do that versus doing the first comment thing. So so that was another big like thing that was going on, especially when I first started. Like that was like the hot thing. Like people were putting everything in their first comment, and it was all about like the first comment. And now it's kind of like no, everything is in the post.
Okay, that's awesome. So, would you say there are sales content, like sales things you can create that do perform? Like, is there ever a time and a place? Like, I love how you said a free webinar. Like, that seems like it's free information. So, I'm sure things like that probably perform a little bit
Oh
better
yeah.
than just go buy this course.
Oh yeah, for sure. So anything like a freebie, like a free webinar, whether it's kind of like a live training, which is what I have done in the past, it's a great way to do that because, especially like if you're educating your audience for, a couple months and you're like, hey, like if you're interested in this, it's like here, like I'm also having a free webinar where we're gonna go more in like deeper conversation about this. So if you enjoyed this post, like you're probably going to enjoy this free webinar. And it's kind of like that's a great way because then like, your webinar can then lead to your course, your program, like, whatever offer you're trying to upsell them. But it's not a direct, really just like, here, like sign up for my group coaching program, for example.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, so are there would you say there's like any features or tools or something we're not used to that LinkedIn has that people should be jumping on, or is it pretty much just the same as everywhere else?
So the two, I think, tools that I love on the profile for LinkedIn are the featured section and the recommendation section. So those two are hands down my two favorite things. The featured section, it's really cool because it's kind of like, I like to think of it as like a pinned post on Instagram, but you can pin like things like articles, links. You can also pin a post. So like it's a great way to showcase, like if you have a freebie, if you were featured in a certain like magazine, online publication that you really want to showcase, or if you want to also just pin a post that performed really well, really highlights like uh something in your career that you're super proud of. But I think it's really cool because you can have links there. So, and you can make it really pretty because you can brand it, and it breaks up the profile nicely because there's a lot of text on LinkedIn. So having that kind of like branded like midsection of the profile, it catches a lot of like attention. So that's why I really like it. I see it's really effective because it's eye catching, and also it's a little bit different than Instagram that, like you can just pin a post and whatever, you can't have links, none of that. So that's something that I really like. And then I also like the recommendation section because if you're someone that really relies on LinkedIn instead of, I don't know, Google, this is the only thing. You kind of have to choose Google or LinkedIn. For me, I chose LinkedIn. You can get customer recommendations on there and then just copy and paste them into your website and also on other social media platforms. But I like that they just kind of stay together because then like I don't feel like I have to really share like customer testimonials as a post, because like if someone wants their testimonials, they can just click my profile and just go there. And to me, like that's a much like cleaner way. And also just in general, like customer testimonials, unless like you're really like storytelling, that content never actually performs well. You're just kind of like, it's more there just to kind of like, here's what I do, but like it's not a piece of content that says like, yes, like this is what's going to help me like go viral and really like get visibility on my content. Like it's more just there. So I like that it's a little bit more like low key, but it's like if someone wants to know what you do and how you work, like it's very easy for them to access that information.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. There's a lot of people who don't want to do like Google business profiles, and I think that can be a great alternative rather than I think the other option that only comes up or that I think of is like Facebook,
Right.
which
Yeah,
doesn't feel as relevant sometimes in like the business world.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, would you say there's anything else that kind of would harm you, like from a growth standpoint? Like, or maybe there's something that like a lot of people, for example, are trained on Instagram not just to create, like you should also consume content. So is it kind of the same way on LinkedIn? Like that's something that if you were always just posting and ghosting, then it's probably not going to perform as well.
So 100%, I actually did a little test a couple months ago because I just wanted to test this out. I tried scheduling a post using LinkedIn and then engaging. Post performed fine, great. And then the next day I scheduled a post. Like there was nothing really different about this post that like would have made it like not like there was no reason why like this post was different other than the fact that I scheduled the post and like was not on the platform at all. The difference in visibility was like night and day. Like it was like embarrassing, like how poor it performed. But I said, no, I'm going to keep this on my profile because like whenever I work with clients, I'm like, here's what this posted and here's what this other posted. Like there's no difference except I can tell you that I scheduled this post via LinkedIn and was not on that platform at all. So definitely don't do that. And that really like that hour when you post, like I always say, like go on 10 minutes before, comment, engage, make sure like you have all your messages read, replied. If people commented on a piece of content that maybe you posted like the day before, make sure you have all of that buttoned up, then post. Like you can schedule the post, like you don't have to do it live. And then like 10 minutes after, just engage. And like if you can, that hour, like if you see people that are commenting on your post, then just, reply back. If not, like that's not really like the end of the world. But definitely like try to be on the platform, because if you don't, like honestly, then there's no point of even like that's a waste of content, honestly. And then the other big thing that I'm going to leave your listeners with is do not repost content. As much as it's easy because like someone else created it and you're like, oh, okay, like this is nice. I agree. Let me just repost and write like, I love this. Do not do it. LinkedIn wants their own content. When you repost content, it is actually harming you. It is harming because it's not original content. So it's better not to post anything than repost, because then you're going to have to try and again, like build up the algorithm and like do all of that. So I would 100% say like, do not repost any content. You want to get reposted. You want your content to be reposted by other people because you want more eyeballs, but like you don't want to be the person reposting.
That's so wild. It's wild that they do it like that. I always find it so funny. Like, you give us the option to use the scheduler to get back our time. You give us the option to repost, but then at the end of the day, you're also like, ooh, don't do that.
Yeah. The scheduler, I think it's fine, but it's like schedule it and like be on the app, basically.
Yeah.
So I've tried, I'm telling you, I tried both and I'm like, okay, well, there's something to it. Like I always say engage for a reason, but I wanted to see like how much truth, how bad is it? That's what I wanted to know. And it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I love that you do that test too, because like it's good to see the test and learn, but you're like willing to sacrifice your content just to
like,
see what happens.
I'm like, I'll see, because I'm like, listen, I'm like, if people don't have to engage, I'm like, my clients are gonna be super happy, and me included. But I'm like, how bad is it to not do this? And I'm like, oh, it's pretty bad.
You're like, okay, I see.
I'm
So
like crickets.
right? Oh man. So how much time would you say you spend? Like, obviously you're still active on Instagram and you still have other platforms. So like, I'm like, you also have a job to do, right? So it's like so funny because I feel like that we build it up in our heads of like, I need to be on here, an hour every day or something, like just to make it overwhelming. So I'd love for you to share. I mean, you might be, because it's your world, you might be like on it more than the average person, but what would you say is like a typical workflow for you or your clients that are in here?
So I batch my content. Like I think that's, as a content creator, like if you don't batch your content, I don't know how you do it, to be honest. So I batch my content and I'm kind of like, all right, like I try to make it, especially like more recently, I try to make it more aligned with my Instagram content too. So like maybe it's not the same video or maybe it's not the exact same post, but the theme is the same. Like there's some kind of like continuity, because for me, it's always weird when people have different social media platforms and they're totally different. Like to me, like that, I don't know, it just seems odd because, I think for me, it's also kind of like, well, which one is it? Like, which one is like the real you? And then for me, like, it almost like it doesn't build trust. I don't know. I've always viewed it like that. So my goal is to keep it like as consistent as possible, to at least keep like the theme like around the same. Like maybe it's worded different, the image might be different, but there's a theme behind it. So that's kind of like one. When I always post in the morning, and I always suggest post in the morning. So after like that's done and I engage and I do all of that, like if I'm trying to do some outreach at some point in the day, I'll spend maybe like 15, 20 minutes. And I'm trying to like do some outreach. And then towards the end of the day, especially if I know I'm posting the day after, towards the end of the day, I like to just kind of go and see like if I missed anything from the morning, like replying back to people. And then that kind of helps me for the next day, just because then I don't have to go and like be right before I post and like go through like, I don't know, 30 comments that I'm trying to keep up with because like I kind of was on it like a little bit better like the day before. So that's what I did typically do as a content creator on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I think it's something that we and even just like getting started, I imagine like spending a few days on it versus like every day and like that kind of stuff will just start to like slowly make a difference in things starting to like turn over. It's not going to be like an overnight, all of a sudden you have a million new followers and engagement.
Yeah. And also just in general, like the thing with LinkedIn is like one of like the bigger like upper hands it has. Like although like it has a lot of users on the platform, it doesn't have a lot of creators on the platform. So it's okay that you're posting twice a week because you're still going to get like really good visibility just because there's not a lot of people that are just creating content. Most people are just on the platform, just at like consuming the content. So that's why I actually originally started because I said, I'm like, well, it's not really saturated. Like it's not saturated. Like my content will stand out. Like I've created content for Instagram. Like I've done this already. So like that really helped me. But I just knew that I wasn't competing with so many people creating content. Like it's so much easier to break through the noise. And I'm like, for me, like this is easier in a way because I know that if I post like twice or three times a week, like that's fine. Like I don't have to burn myself out to post like every single day and stay up to date with the trending audio and doing all these things. Like to me, like that was exhausting.
Yeah, no, agreed. It is exhausting. And I think there's a lot of people who are like just on the verge of quitting Instagram and just like don't want to,
Yeah.
and thinking like, where else can I live? And so I love talking about other strategies because you absolutely do not need to be everywhere.
No.
You mentioned outreach. I'd love to know, like, how do you approach outreach? Because I think when we all think of outreach and we think of LinkedIn, we think of those like cold DMs and messages that we get from people. So I'd love to know, like, how do you approach that?
So to me, it's funny because again, like using other people's mistakes as a way to stand out, I feel like is like the strategy I use for like LinkedIn overall. It's kind of like if everyone's doing this, I'm gonna do this. And like, I mean, this is just it's such like a big like no for me. Like just sending those cold pitch DMs, like no one likes that. So for me, it's always like, okay, well, is there someone that I want to be connected with that like maybe have like I have a mutual connection that like at least I have something to start a conversation with. Or maybe they commented on my post. So it's kind of like, hey, like, thank you so much for engaging. Kind of like, if you like this post, I actually have a free resource. Like, here you go. Like, very like low key. And then if they sign up, like, then it's kind of like, oh, let me follow up. Like, hey, how did you like my free webinar? And like, that's like a way that like you can get them in your orbit, but at least it's a little bit more, it's softer. It's not like this like sales thing. And it's also like you're giving something for free. I also love doing like a voice note, especially on that platform. People will respond to voice notes so much quicker because again, everyone else is doing cold sales DMs. So when you're someone and you're like, hey, like I saw we were connected and you know this person, wanted to say hi. Like I always say, like I just like to do voice notes because they're a little bit more personal. And people always have like such like a good like reaction to that because they're like, yeah, like I do like the voice note. Like it works. Like I mean, I do the same thing on Instagram to be honest, or I'll send like a video. Like if I'm like, like at my desk, it's like, hey, like, I met you at this event. Like let's get connected on here. But again, it's just like adding more like that personal touch on such like a business corporate like salesy platform like that just like really works.
Yeah, I love that. Voice notes are my thing. So I think I left Courtney like a podcast episode length Voxer message right before we joined this. So
Yeah.
it is, yeah, it is. Voice notes in our team are very popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, as SEO and branding experts, I always love to kind of hear how that applies to this platform. So is SEO like in terms of like keyword rich posts or like using if they have alt text on images, like whatever it may be. I would love to know like are there any SEO things or branding in terms of like obviously brand comes through in your personality and your voice, and I love you said that right from the beginning of like I'm going to show up as who I am, and that's what I'm going to do, and it's going to resonate with the right people. And so I think that definitely from like a brand strategy piece, but from a creative standpoint, like content wise, like branded content versus like just an image you took with your iPhone of the book you're reading or something. I would love to know your thoughts on like both of those and if they apply to this platform in any way.
So starting with the branded content, what has worked for me is like the brand photos, like brand photos that I did a photo shoot for, like those work really well because they're great quality. Like they're just, they're very eye catching. They're beautiful images. They're done well. The quality is like great. Like they're standing out. Like mine are very like light and airy. So like, again, like they stand out. So definitely like that helps versus just like a photo of your book. And also, like, especially on that platform, people want to connect with other people. So, like, but that's with anything. Like, a photo of you will always do better than anything, like, even if you're talking about like a book or a podcast, like, you don't actually have to show like the book on your desk. Like, you could have, it could be a photo of you and be like, hey, I just finished reading this book and here's my 3 takeaways. So that's 100% will work so much better. Especially people will likely share that too. So it's, it works better because then you're also building your personal brand and you're really marketing yourself versus marketing like a book or a podcast that you consumed. When
I
it
think
comes
that's
to,
also easier. I mean, than
yeah,
having to sit down on Canva and create a bunch of graphics.
yes. So when I will tell you carousels, I see people that do carousels and they work really well. Granted, they keep the same template, but like again, for me, I'll be honest, I try to find the easier way that works. If a photo of me that I have in my phone that I did like months ago from my brand photo shoot, if that works, it's getting me the visibility and it's easier, then obviously I'm going to double down on that. I'm not reinventing the wheel and trying to do a carousel and doing the Canva or like hiring someone to do that. Like I'm not doing that. Like I'm going to do what works. I have the photos. I'm happy. I'm using what I have. So that's kind of like how I feel with the branded. The SEO, LinkedIn is really SEO like friendly. So in your content, in your profile, like really repeating yourself and using those words that you want people to like search you for, that's really key. The other thing that I love about LinkedIn is like if you were to Google your name, one of the top hits is always LinkedIn. Like that's always like one of like the first, I would say like 5 links that comes up, it's always your LinkedIn profile. So like again, like if a client is looking you up, whether it's for like a PR pitch or maybe they're interested in working with you and they just Google your name and they see that you're active on LinkedIn, it's like, oh, let me check them out on LinkedIn. That's really going to give you like the upper hand because it's like, oh wow, like they're like full like blown on LinkedIn too. Like they're really showcasing their expertise. And like just from my experience, like so many people started taking me seriously after really doing the LinkedIn thing. And again, like that was not planned. That just kind of like came with the territory. But before that, like I used to go to a networking event, like people wouldn't talk to me. These are like, oh, like she's younger, like, or, like she's too fashion forward. Everyone was in like their business suits and I'm like in a more fashionable outfit. And it's kind of like I would get brushed off, but then they're like, oh, that's the LinkedIn girl. That's the LinkedIn girl. Like, let me go ask her like how she got there. Let me go talk to her. So it kind of like brought that attention, but that was not kind of like intentional. That just kind of happened.
Yeah, which I mean speaks volumes to like what can happen when you show up as you
Yeah.
and you resonate with the right audience.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've been hearing for a few years now that like LinkedIn is the low-hanging fruit for entrepreneurs and creators. Is that still true? Do you feel like it's still like are more people jumping on or is it still like slow and there's still huge opportunity there?
So people are definitely jumping on. But like there's still a lot of opportunity. Like still, like there's so many, like people have caught on to it because people, I think, are feeling what I felt when I felt frustrated with not being able to grow a business on Instagram, on TikTok, just, doing all of the things and not seeing results. Like that's super frustrating. Like you're going to burn out at some point. So I think a lot of people like are definitely catching on to it, but there's still so much opportunity there.
I love to hear that. Okay, do you have any final tips, takeaways, anything we didn't cover that people absolutely need to know about?
I think we covered everything,
I know.
honestly.
We
I think
talked
we
about
got
a lot.
yeah, I think we got
I know.
everything.
I love it. Okay. So how about you tell people what it is that you kind of do within your business, how they could work with you, how they can connect with you. Obviously, LinkedIn is where they definitely need to go, and we'll make sure all of
Yeah.
those links are in the show notes too.
Yeah, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn or you connect with me on Instagram. Those are really the two platforms that I'm most active on. My clients work with me one-to-one, and then I also have a program called the LinkedIn Mastery Collective that really talks everything LinkedIn and how to grow your business and the visibility using the platform.
I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you for having me.
If you like this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please go ahead and leave us a review and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We absolutely love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.